Roper. I will have another cocktail,
You know
Mrs.
what?
Roper.
Thank you, because
As a matter of fact,
that was my plan tonight. I wanted to look like Mrs. Roper.
You did it.
Thank you. Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Kelly Dodd, the outspoken, unapologetic firecracker of the Real Housewives of Orange County, once ruled the screen with her brutal honesty and no-filter attitude. She was loud, unpredictable, and unafraid to say what others only whispered. But that raw energy that made her famous would soon become the reason she fell from grace.
You told my friend she was ugly.
She is ugly. She is.
You said that I was ugly.
Okay, I apologize for that.
No, I
And
didn't.
you and your
I thought
husband's-
your outfit. I thought your outfit was,
cares?
but I don't think you're ugly.
Are you gonna start yelling at me again?
Shut the up. You're a freaking is what you are. No wonder why her daughter doesn't talk to her.
You yelled at me in the hallway and go, "Why weren't you drinking, Kelly? Why didn't you go start drinking?" What? That's what you were doing.
Tonight, we're tracing how Kelly Dodd's career went from Bravo's breakout sensation to one of reality TV's most controversial figures. From explosive on-air fights and reckless pandemic comments to public feuds, lost endorsements, and a fractured family image. This is the story of a star who mistook shock value for staying power.
I don't really give a okay? So why aren't you even bringing it up? It's ridiculous. You guys can go off.
What you said, I've been nothing but your friend.
No, you haven't. No, you haven't, and you know it.
You know that going after them in the lawsuit
I didn't.
that wasn't nice.
I didn't go after him in a lawsuit.
That was a
How
bad
did I go
choice.
after him in a lawsuit? You understand? Are you that dumb?
I am tired
You
of you
are.
poking at
Like
No, you calm your
you
down.
pig bitch, you liar.
She sharpened it. She pushed buttons, called names, and turned polite gatherings into headline moments. That edge made good television. Audiences tuned in when Kelly spoke because you never knew whether she'd shock you, defy you, or embarrass you. Her lines were quotable, her comebacks vicious, and her anger theatrical. Early on, that appetite for conflict was rewarded. More screen time, bigger storylines, and the kind of notoriety that networks monetize. But the same trait that bought Kelly attention also planted the seeds of long-term risk. Reality TV rewards heat, but only up to a point. When controversy becomes constant, viewers stop seeing drama as entertainment and start seeing it as a pattern. What was once spicy and exciting began to look like instability and cruelty. The reward system that built Kelly's fame, provocation for ratings, slowly became the engine of her downfall.
But Kel, it's like even if that
But I'm
happens,
not talking to you, okay? I'm not talking to you right now.
You draw a picture of a pig on a car. Do you think you're a beauty queen?
Yeah, actually, I'm way better looking than you are. That's for sure.
Okay? Yes, Shannon is okay.
Of course she is.
Why would I let her go to the hospital by herself?
Because you know she's full of
Hey, Kelly,
she's here saying she's
crying.
Do you want me to hit you on the head? I'll hit you on the head.
You guys are very seasoned.
Yeah, we are.
I mean, you guys are burnt, cooked. Yeah.
Okay, of course you are. Look at the color that you are. You're fit right in with that pink blush. Come on.
You don't know anything either when it
You
comes
don't
to
know what the hell you're talking about. You're full of
Kelly's talent wasn't diplomacy, it was escalation. Over seasons, a pattern emerged. Arguments that escalated into shouting matches, insults that turned personal, and moments where physical proximity turned threatening. These weren't isolated blow-ups, they formed a through line in her public persona. Take her clashes with Vicki Gunvalson, Shannon Beador, and Tamra Judge. With Vicki, fights were bitter and sustained. Accusations traded that cut deeper than ordinary reality show catfights. With Shannon, the toxicity sometimes turned physical, or at least threateningly close to it, leaving viewers cringing rather than cheering. Tamra, a veteran who's argued with dozens of housewives, matched Kelly blow for blow, but even Tamra and others eventually suggested Kelly's aggression crossed a line. Kelly's verbal attacks didn't just roast an opponent in the moment, they left a public record. Sound bites circulate forever, clips are remixed. Sponsors see headlines, not nuance. In that way, Kelly's weaponized words became the ammunition that eventually emptied her professional arsenal. When the world shut down in 2020, public behavior became a moral test, and Kelly Dodd failed it spectacularly. While most celebrities encouraged safety or stayed quiet, Kelly went the opposite route. She attended crowded gatherings, mocked masks, and posted tone-deaf comments like "people die anyway" and "maybe it's God's way of thinning the herd." These weren't harmless opinions, they were public statements made during a global tragedy. Her posts spread outrage across social media, with fans calling her insensitive and irresponsible. Sponsors that once celebrated her outspoken nature quickly backed away. Even her Real Housewives castmates distanced themselves, refusing to be linked to her behavior. The backlash grew beyond Bravo fandoms. It became national news. Petitions called for her firing, and brands cut ties to protect their image. In a moment when empathy and accountability defined reputations, Kelly's arrogance made her a symbol of reckless privilege. What might have been a short controversy instead became a lasting stain, one that followed her long after lockdowns ended.
I want to give a public apology. When I wrote that it's God's way of thinning the herd, that's not what I meant. What I meant was, do these pandemics happen because it's God's way? I'm not God. I'm not insensitive. I feel bad for all the families that have lost loved ones. And I do think we should all stay home and protect everybody. That's not what I meant. And I want to apologize to anyone who got offended. Okay, I'm sorry. So for anybody who felt offended by my stupid writing of God thinning the herd, I'm just asking a question. Is it God's way of thinning the herd? I don't know. I just feel bad, and my choice of words were stupid, and I hope you guys can all forgive me for saying something so ridiculous and so stupid. So again, please accept my apology.
If the pandemic post cracked Kelly Dodd's image, her repeated offensive remarks shattered it completely. Over the years, she made comments that many found racist, dismissive, or cruel, from mocking the Black Lives Matter movement to trivializing issues like domestic abuse and gender rights. Each time outrage grew, instead of apologizing, Kelly doubled down. Her tone stayed defensive, sarcastic, and unapologetic, often making the situation worse. Kelly's refusal to show growth or empathy became her defining flaw. What might have been isolated mistakes turned into a clear pattern of behavior. She wasn't learning, she was provoking. Even her castmates, known for thriving on drama, began publicly criticizing her comments, saying they had gone too far.
Kelly Dodd is defending herself on Instagram after a video resurfaced from 2016 on TMZ, which showed Dodd making racist remarks. In that TMZ video, Dodd says, quote, "I don't like black guys. I don't even know any black guys." She later told the outlet that same year, quote, "I am truly embarrassed. There's no excuse for bad behavior or comments that offend anyone." She added, "That video does not represent who I really am, and I apologize for acting irresponsibly."
Now, more than 4 years later, after that video first surfaced, it has again become a topic of conversation, with Dodd taking to Instagram on Saturday to defend herself to her followers. One person commented saying, quote, "But like, do you truly believe that? Because you're Mexican, you can't be racist?" Dodd quickly responded saying, "I've experienced racism personally. I'm a woman of color and love..."
The professional fallout came quickly. Sponsors dropped her, public appearances were canceled, and Bravo reportedly reviewed her future on the Real Housewives of Orange County. By the time she issued any sort of apology, fans and brands alike had already moved on, seeing it as a reaction to backlash, not genuine remorse. Kelly Dodd had built her reputation on boldness, but there's a fine line between bold and reckless. Her words crossed it again and again. And in an industry where image is the product, her defiance cost her everything. When the outrage faded, Kelly Dodd's career was in ruins. Once a Bravo regular with steady brand deals, she found herself cut off from events, sponsors, and collaborations. Major beauty and lifestyle brands dropped her, and public appearances dried up overnight. Controversy might have kept her name trending, but it scared away money. In a world where reputation is profit, Kelly's unfiltered honesty became financial poison. The lesson was clear. Fame built on outrage can't survive when the checks stop coming. For someone whose fame relied on visibility and brand deals, that's devastating. What began as honesty, saying what others wouldn't, turned into a liability. Her authenticity crossed into aggression. Her candor became carelessness. And in a culture increasingly shaped by accountability, brands no longer needed the drama. They needed safety. Kelly Dodd learned the hard way that controversy might bring views, but stability brings income. And once sponsors walked away, her TV career, no matter how loud or unapologetic, could no longer survive the silence of lost support. For years, Bravo saw Kelly Dodd as a ratings magnet, bold, unpredictable, and good for business. But as public backlash grew and sponsors withdrew, her controversy stopped being profitable. Behind the scenes, warnings were issued and patience ran out. When outrage began outweighing entertainment value, Bravo made the call. Protecting the brand mattered more than protecting a star. Kelly's firing wasn't about one outburst, it was the result of years of volatility that finally became bad business. Her exit marked the moment when even reality TV decided she'd gone too far. When your life is both a brand and a headline, disagreement often moves from the stage to the courthouse. Kelly's response to falling fortunes was not always to apologize or to step back. Too often, it was to double down, publicly and legally. Threats of lawsuits, defamation accusations, and hot-headed legal posturing became part of the ongoing narrative. Some disputes involved fellow housewives, with lawyers' letters traded in place of private conversations. At times, lawsuits were threatened or filed. In other moments, legal action was used as a PR weapon, a way to signal toughness to followers and to escalate the fight on a new platform. It's important to separate what's legally verified from what's reported as threat or rumor. Not every angry post leads to a filed claim. Not every lawsuit survives scrutiny. But the spectacle of legal threats creates headlines either way. That public legal theater kept Kelly's controversies in the news longer than any single incident might have warranted. What could have been private reconciliations became public battles with lawyers, statements, and counterstatements. The cost was both financial and reputational. Legal fights drained resources and attention, and they made any chance of quiet reconciliation impossible. In the court of public opinion, litigation is less about truth and more about theater. And Kelly's courtroom threats only extended the drama she could no longer control. Kelly Dodd's controversies didn't just damage her career, they spilled into her family life. Arguments, co-parenting tensions, and online disputes involving relatives and her daughter became tabloid fodder. What should have stayed private turned into public drama, eroding sympathy and credibility alike. As personal issues played out online, viewers stopped seeing a fiery reality star and instead saw instability. That shift was devastating. Once family conflict became content, Kelly's image went from unpredictable to unbalanced. For audiences and brands alike, the fallout made her seem less like a TV personality and more like a long-term liability. Social media was supposed to be Kelly Dodd's defense. Instead, it became her downfall. Her unfiltered posts and impulsive replies turned every controversy into a viral storm. Instagram and Twitter magnified her missteps as fans and critics shared clips, memes, and screenshots that painted her as brash and unapologetic. The more she fought back, the worse it got. Her defensiveness fed the backlash, creating an echo chamber of outrage. Supporters cheered her defiance, but the wider audience saw arrogance, not authenticity. In the end, the same platforms that once built her fame destroyed it. Every post became proof of the very image she was trying to escape. Reckless, reactive, and unwilling to change. When the backlash finally caught up, Kelly Dodd tried to clean up the mess. But the timing was all wrong. Her apologies came only after sponsors dropped her and Bravo distanced itself. Fans saw them not as sincere, but as PR damage control. She framed herself as a truth teller targeted by cancel culture, but instead of rebuilding trust, that stance made her seem defensive and out of touch. Her attempts at rebranding lacked humility and came far too late. By the time she tried to make amends, the audience had already stopped listening. Damage control without genuine change isn't redemption. It's just the final act before the fall. Kelly Dodd's downfall wasn't just about her. It mirrored a cultural shift. Reality TV once rewarded chaos and shock value, but by the late 2010s, audiences wanted authenticity and accountability. Kelly never adapted. What once seemed real and entertaining began to feel cruel and tone-deaf. The world had changed, but Kelly hadn't. In the end, her fall was the audience's verdict. Fame built on outrage doesn't last in a culture that now values empathy over ego. Kelly's story became proof that the same loudness that makes you famous can also be what silences you. By the time the cameras stopped rolling, Kelly Dodd's reality TV empire had crumbled. What once made her famous, her loud, unapologetic persona, became the very reason she was dropped. Her firing from the Real Housewives of Orange County wasn't just another cast change. It was Bravo's way of drawing a line between entertainment and toxicity. After her exit, sponsors vanished, partnerships ended, and companies distanced themselves from her controversies. Kelly tried to stay relevant through podcasts and social media with her husband, Rick Leventhal, but her audience had shrunk to a small echo chamber that celebrated her defiance rather than her insight. In the short term, she stayed visible, but mostly for the wrong reasons. Every mention online came from a feud or backlash, not a comeback. Her reputation, once her greatest asset, was now her biggest liability. In the long run, Kelly's name became a warning in the industry, proof that fame built on chaos can't last. Rebuilding her image would require humility and restraint, two traits she rarely showed. The spotlight that once made her unstoppable ultimately burned her out, leaving behind not a reality star, but a reality cautionary tale. Kelly Dodd's downfall wasn't sudden, it wasn't unfair. It was the inevitable outcome of unchecked behavior, amplified by a social media culture that rewards outrage until it consumes its own source. Every feud, every headline, every viral post added to the pile. And when the pile collapsed, it buried her career with it. Her story is more than gossip. It's a modern parable about the dangers of mistaking infamy for influence. Reality TV made Kelly famous, but social media magnified her flaws. Networks used her chaos for ratings, fans boosted her fights for memes, and Kelly herself doubled down on the persona that paid her bills, until it didn't. She became the product of an ecosystem that thrives on spectacle, only to discard it once the spectacle becomes toxic. The lesson here isn't just for Kelly Dodd, it's for every viewer, fan, and influencer living in the outrage economy. Watch critically. Check facts. Understand that every click, every share, every retweet fuels the very chaos we later condemn. Entertainment built on controversy rarely ends well for its stars, because outrage by nature is temporary. Kelly Dodd didn't fall overnight. She slowly dismantled her own legacy, one headline at a time. Kelly chased attention until it chased her out, a cautionary tale of how outrage is a short-lived currency, and in the end, it always demands to be paid back.